The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, and with April 15th fast approaching, it's more aggressive than ever. In 2025, enforcement has ramped up, and if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is not an option. The longer you do, the worse it gets. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you can do. April 15th marks another tax year that has passed you by. Getting ahead of this now is the smart move, but never, never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Why? Because not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning they know exactly which agents to deal with and which to avoid. With proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Talk with one of their strategists today. It's free. Stop the threatening letters. Stop looking over your shoulder and protect yourself from property seizures and bank levies. Don't let the IRS control your future. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com. April 15th is just around the corner. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Attention sports enthusiasts, keep the adrenaline pumping and elevate your game day with Chumba Casino. It's completely free to play. No purchase necessary. Whether you're cheering from the stands, on the move, or relaxing at home, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of social casino directly to your fingertips. Experience the ultimate social casino adventure with reels of casino-style games, offering hundreds of exciting options to choose from and fresh new releases every week. There's always something new and thrilling to explore. From action-packed social slots and classic blackjack to engaging bingo and solitaire, the fun never stops. Plus, enjoy generous daily login bonuses and a fantastic free welcome bonus to kickstart your social gaming journey. Dive into the excitement. Discover a world where you can play for your chance to redeem some serious prizes and have a blast along the way. Don't miss out. What are you waiting for? Join now and immerse yourself in nonstop fun and adventure with Chumba Casino. Get in on the action today at ChumbaCasino.com and make every day a Chumba day. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. TNC apply.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
All right, now that we got all our restrictions under control here, we're good to go. Ground control, let's take off, because this is the Backyard Gardens podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And we are here to discuss our seed starting shelves are life right now. And we want to try and help people that have overcrowding issues. There's ways to get around that, and we're going to go over that today. There's a lot of information in this. Truth be told, we've already had a dry run of this because your boy forgot to push record. So here we go for round two.
I know what you're thinking. You know, we made a fancy title you clicked on. Now you're kind of like, we went through the episode and it's much better than you're thinking it's going to be. It's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those that surprised us. So in the last episode, though, Batavia, you asked a really good question, and we did reference it in the subscriber episode. Yeah. So ask that question again, because I think it's important that people would listen and go for it.
So the question was set up, and you may have seen this on the interweb. It's, what's a thing that people rave about, and you're just like, they're just not telling the truth. Like, it's just not even good, let alone like really, really good. So young Ben went first. And since we're re-recording this, I haven't had an opportunity to think about it more.
Yeah, because you fumbled through it last time.
Yeah.
So first of all, Batavia, she threw out there that you couldn't say kale. Because that's, I mean, and look, I agree with that completely. Kale is not that great.
Well, no, it's not. People can't say kale. You can't say kale because of how you feel about it. Yeah. It's just you.
Oh, well, I'm glad we're doing this one again then. So my answer to that is cauliflower. Cauliflower, you know, I hate cauliflower rice. I hate cauliflower. I hate everything about it. It gets soggy. It's white. It's gross. And I like cauliflower wings, but I only like the wings for the sauce. Yeah. So there's that whole aspect. And cauliflower crust on pizza, Cut it out, dude. I don't like it at all. So cauliflower is one of them. I think that craze is starting to go away.
Yeah. No, the vegans are still all over it, man. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find out. And I understand, like, if people have, like, gluten issues and they have to eat cauliflower crust, my heart goes out to you completely. So that was mine.
Yeah.
Now, Batavia, what is yours?
I'm still going to give 2 because the whole joke was...
You can't do that. That's cheating.
Yeah, the whole joke was I brought it up, but in my mind, I was just thinking about regular life and not when he answered. I'm like, oh, shoot, this is a whole garden podcast. It probably should be garden related. So I'm going to expand my stumble into the garden answer. And it's a cheat because I don't know that people rave about it, but a lot of people grow it. And a lot of people they kind of imply they really enjoy it. I'm going to do summer squashes, specifically zucchini and yellow squash. So I'm a fan of the patty pans, but they're like a different beast. So
yeah, they are.
The zucchini, and we have these in our shop, so don't let this deter you from buying them. Yeah. And the yellow squash, I just don't get it. If you want to grow it, come see us. But
it's funny you say that because we don't have yellow squash in there. And the whole idea was all the seeds we would have grown and enjoyed. And neither one of us really enjoy yellow squash.
Yeah.
So,
and the zucchini was just because we know it's super popular. We've both grown it. We've grown it successfully in the past. So it was almost a disservice not to add it. But I wonder how many people are even buying it. Like, my family just wants me to grow it, so I grow it, You're
just like begrudgingly growing it.
Just like,
yeah.
But then my second one in real life is Greek yogurt. And I have, and I'm not talking about like the vanilla flavored or like it has a dash of honey already in it. I'm talking about what's supposed to be the best version of what's all of the, the good gut stuff, like the regular plain old Greek yogurt. And, new year, new me. And I'm trying to get ready for summer 2026. And
this is 2025, everybody. You heard her right.
I just don't get it. The stuff that I have to pile on, I'm doing like a yogurt parfait, and I'm using really good honey because it's honey from Sandy Bottom Homestead. And oh, dude, speaking of completely off track. When I was a child, we had treats, but it was like a big deal for you to eat ice cream. Like, we had it, but it wasn't like you could eat it every night. So when I was an adult, I think I told this story here before, I was like, as soon as I move out, I'm going to have ice cream all the time. And now I probably eat ice cream once or twice a month. But after the whole, like the third time of the like parfait with Greek yogurt parfait debacle, I said, I'm going to put some honey on some vanilla ice cream and banana. Dude.
Was it good?
I ate it before, like an hour before bed, and I dreamt about it. It was so good. Again, honey from Sandy Bottom Homestead. That was summer honey too, right?
Yeah, you got summer honey. Yeah. So if you don't know, I am Sandy Bottom Homestead. But yeah, that's my honey, and it was summer honey, which has a more robust flavor. It's got that more, if you put it in like the cannabis world, like that danky flavor is what you would call it. So, did you ever smoke pot when you were younger or
no?
Whatever?
Nope.
So okay. So for all of the fellow potheads out there, you have swag and you have kind bud.
Okay.
Right? So kind bud is like the really stinky stuff. That is your summer honey, basically. Now, fall honey, if I get it next year, I'll send it to you. It smells like dirty socks, but it is delicious. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Like when you I opened the hive and I was like, I wanted to gag, but it was delicious. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So I keep honey by my desk. See?
Yeah, I have some right here by my desk too. That same stick, right? Greek yogurt is my regular life. Every, person that consumes this, just go ahead and relieve yourself of the lie that you've been telling. Like,
yeah.
This is my grandmother. Now this really falls into the garden. Not my grandmother, but one of my great aunts. She said, and it stuck with me. Sometimes you eat things because I know it's good for me. It's not that I'm crazy about it. But it's good for me. So. Yeah,
I'm trying to get used to eating Greek yogurt without honey in it. So. That's what I'm trying to do. It's difficult. But One thing I was going to say too is if you're eating honey in your yogurt and you put the honey in your yogurt, it actually amps up the probiotics that you get. So you get more of that. So just think it's like the sugar's feeding the probiotics before you get it.
So before we get back to the regularly scheduled program, if you
that we're way off topic from. That we're way off topic from.
If you're listening in a place or have access to a place like on YouTube where you can comment, if you can comment over on Backyard Gardens Community Garden on Facebook, it's free to join. Please let us know the thing that you believe. It'd be great if it's gardening, but it's okay if it's not. That people make a big deal out of, and it's kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's subjective. It's subjective. So it's okay if we don't agree with you. But on that note, I do have to say this. Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, everybody. I am your host, Ben, and I am with my lovely co-host, Miss Batavia. And I want to get this out of the way. So get your bell hand ready, Batavia, if you don't mind. We're doing bells on demand today. That's the new rule.
Look at this face.
Yeah. We got a comment from Wanda on Facebook, our community garden Facebook page, which you can join, as Batavia said. And she said, so apparently you can mark off the outline of your raised beds. This got so much more fun. So what we're referring to is the Planter app, which is a longtime sponsor of the show for an exact reason. This is really important because I didn't stop for Batavia, first of all, so...
I'm waiting. I'm thinking now that that's strategic, like the level of control that you want to have over me and my bill. Hey, Wanda, we're not going to let him stop the shine.
I control the bell secretly. But no, it's important because they're a sponsor of the show and they keep adding stuff to it, which I had no clue about. So she's excited to grow her second year raspberries and watch them grow. And she has them outlined on there. So
yeah, I saw a picture.
Check out the Planter app.
Too.
Yeah, she showed a picture of it too. So if you've never used the Planter app and you don't know, go to the Facebook page, get your little pinky and scroll down your little thumb and you'll see it. And it's a great app. So you can get it on the Google and Apple Play Store. There's a lot of benefits to it and it's changed the way we've gardened. So definitely want to check that out. And use the link below to get a discount on the lifetime membership of the Planter app.
I think I scroll with my index finger. I was just testing it out. But anyway.
Yeah, it depends how I'm holding my phone.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times I think it's my thumb. It's weird. Anyways. All right. So Batavia, have you ever had your seed starting shelf just overflowing with plants?
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful mess. Yes, I have.
Wow, you think it's beautiful?
Yeah. You know what? This is where I started to get sentimental about all of the things. So I saw the first signs of the onions germinate, right? It's like a little bit less than a week from when I, seeded them. And to see green on that shelf, like I was going, by to put some clothes from the, move them from the washer to the dryer. And I was just like, it just makes me happy. And so then when you ask me about, has it ever been overflowing? I also think past that point to, months in the future and how there's going to be so much green life on the shelves. Now, everything that's beautiful ain't good for you. And that's like overflowing with love. Sure, we'll take that. But overflowing with plants, anytime that's happened, it's actually been something that I've needed to try to curb, it's created a problem for me after I stopped being enamored by it.
Yeah, it's, I've had it, man, so the year that we made the, I think we started the gardening goal episodes that year, which we've got ours coming up soon. I've got some pretty good goals too. That was the year I was like, I'm going to start all my own seeds. And so I started all my own seeds, but it got out of control quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yeah. And I've actually built this shelf. If you're watching YouTube, you can see the bright glow in the background. I built that shelf, or I rigged it up. I didn't build it. And it, everything was good. And then next thing you know, The floor's filled up. I've got extra lights running. It got really crazy. And what ended up happening was when I moved the plants outside, like I'd have to bring them back in because it'd be too cold or something. And then I would invariably be losing plants. Like I would have issues. So that's not something that I wanted to relive. So I started looking at it, and then I started learning a lot about it. I started doing different things. So what we've done is we've broken this up into multiple categories. One of them is going to cost you some money if you feel to go down that path. And then the other ones won't cost you any money, but they're going to make you think like, hey, we need to really look at what we're doing here and really maybe change what you're doing, like how you're operating your garden overall, and then see if that'll help you get this under control.
Yeah, it's a part of the formula for success in your garden, right? So of course it starts with your plan. Then you kind of feel like, what you actually plant out. Well, no, it's everything in between, getting from, you have your plan, you're starting to get seed orders in. And once you get to the point of seeding, all of the things that go into scheduling for that, and watering and fertilizing and all of that, like it's a lot of traffic on your seed starting area, whether it's a shelf, like, the wire shelving that we use, or if it's something different, like that's a lot of traffic. It's responsible for quite a bit. So that's why, again, like it's kind of one of these topics, like, really, do we need to talk about this? Absolutely. And here we are.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you would think like, hey, it's not something you would think would need to be talked about, but once you start doing it, it changes the game completely. So basically throughout this episode, we'll talk about these different things, but just to kind of put it out there, when I started doing these, I grow the same amount of plants and never overflow anymore, like at all. So that kind of puts into perspective how that works. And in fact, I probably grow more than I did then. So, but it took a lot of time and a lot of effort. And the first thing that, we'll go into the money part first, just to get it out of the way, because this is a really important one, is the equipment that you use. And I'm not talking about your lights or anything like that. We're talking about the actual containers that you put your seeds in. That's what we're referring to. So, what do you use, Batavia, for your seed starting?
90+% of what I use is going to be the 10 by 20 black trays, kind of as the thing that's going to be on the shelf. Inside of those trays, I'm using either the 6-pack deep cells, depending on what I'm starting or what I'm up potting, or the more traditional smaller size 6-packs. And so those two kind of seed cell containers are what I use, again, 90+%. When it comes to starting, that's the first home any of the seeds that I'm sowing kind of get.
Yeah. So just to lay it out there, if you go and you once you start getting into this stuff, all trays, not all, but 95% of trays for seed starting is all 10 by 20. So that's like your goal that you want to stay in. I use those deep 6-pack cells for a long time, and a 10 by 20 of those is 6 of those trays. So 3 trays side by side. That's 10 by 20. I ended up graduating for multiple reasons, which we'll get into. I'm using, right now on my shelf, I have 10 by 20 trays that are 50 cells. So they're smaller. And then I also have 72 cells. I have some 177 cells, something like that. I don't know the exact numbers. I think I have some 32 cells. So I've got across the board a lot. And that was just me trying to figure out, like, what do I want to put in what? And what I found is certain trays work better for certain things. So the 177 or whatever is very, very particular kind of seed goes in there. Yeah. That would be for like onion seeds, So, and then you would just measure the bigger the cell, the more robust seed you can put in there. And there's some stuff that I do not put in those cells at all either. So there is that.
And there are a couple of things to consider when it comes to what I start what in, right? How do I choose? Because I only said it's 90%, not 100%, when it comes to those two types. I have even a 9-pack, which I love. It's just hard to find those online. It's kind of like if you buy the whole package with the tray. I've been able to get those from stores. But I really like those, and they're smaller when it comes to how much soil can go into the cell than your 6-packs. It's just slightly smaller, but it's smaller. So things that have really small seeds that, germinate really, really slowly and even grow slowly, I tend to use a smaller seed cell for. Things that even if it maybe germinates slower, not the fastest, if it's going to grow faster, and I maybe want to avoid the whole idea of potting it up, I'll start those sometimes in the deeper pockets. So like, some of my peppers, I'll start in the deeper pockets. I definitely do it for some of the leafier greens. Not all, like I have some, brassicas that are started in your traditional smaller size 6-packs. But I kind of play around with that, and it's not a direct formula that I follow every single year. It's just based on the experience that I've had. When it comes to what I'm growing this year, I'll make those adjustments. I would prefer to grow everything in the smaller 6-packs just because I'm able to take advantage of the space more so than the deep ones. But that just doesn't work with kind of how long some of the things I'm growing are on my seed shelves, which is a whole kind of discussion point in a few.
Yeah.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
So I use right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 36, 48 cell trays, I believe, not 50. I'm sorry. I misspoke earlier. So I've got 48 cell trays on there, and they got my peppers in there. And I was worried about them for a long time because they are significantly smaller. But what I found was it actually wasn't that big a deal. And we'll circle back to this. The problem came to when I was up potting. Mm-hmm. So we're going to come back to up potting in a minute, but that was kind of the issue I had with it. Now, I found 2 places that are really good to get these kinds of trays for. One of them was Bootstrap Farmer, mm-hmm. and the other one was Greenhouse Megastore. We're not affiliated with them in any way. If you'd like to be affiliated with us, please reach out.
Crossing fingers and toes.
Yeah. But I mean, ultimately, like, they worked out really well. They had good quality. I was originally buying everything off of Amazon. I'd buy 100 6-pack cells every year, and I would go through those easily. So the problem I had was, they don't really last. If you fart on them, they'll break. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really weak. So these trays are more robust. Now, the 170 some cell trays, they're like thick. They will last for a long time. But the problem I have with those is they're a little bit bigger. They're like 10 by 21. So they don't really fit great, which is why I like to put the onions in them because I can do them in the greenhouse and stuff. But using those trays has changed the world completely. And I know a lot of people use solo cups. So solo cups are definitely good to use, but it's so inefficient when it comes to space. Great. You good?
Yeah, man. I got a lot of stuff going on here.
Somebody just went deaf on the other end. So I used yogurt cups for a long time. One of
my garden friends, one of my friends who's also a garden friend, like, this has to be almost 10 years ago now, gifted me yogurt cups because they ate a lot of yogurt, like the smallest, almost the smallest yogurt cups. And I used those like year over year. That was definitely a time where I was just like trying to be really frugal, trying to reuse as much as I could reuse. And I generally use them to up pot things. And it's a real interesting time when you talk about trying to keep a seed, kind of starting area orderly. The idea of how things would fall down and how you have the seed cells that we're talking about going into the trays. They're designed, they complement each other. They're designed to kind of get butted up against each other. I've used the larger, I think it's like a 3-inch pot, the round ones. I've bought those and used those year over year. And I realized I really want the square ones, and so that, again, it's just, they fit and they nestle into each other much easier. But I didn't know that until I knew that,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I didn't know until I found these trays. I had no clue. I thought it was just like, oh, you deal with it. And I thought you had to do everything in 6-packs. Mm-hmm. And I was, and I've used deep 6-packs, medium ones and all that. And they work great for some things. But as I started graduating away and working my way around it, now I learned that there was a lot more to it, but the thing that we have to talk about is there is a little bit of a cost involved. The benefit is typically these things are not sold singularly. I don't know if I said that right.
They know what you mean.
Yeah. They will come in like 3-packs, 5-packs, stuff like that. And it wasn't too bad. I took it a step further. And then, like you said, I got the 10 by 20 trays to set the plants in. So that kind of eliminated a lot of mess, which ended up helping me with my watering, because then that's how I got into bottom watering. And then I took it a step further, and then I did spend money that at the time I didn't want to, but they're called giant trays. They're the whole span of you can see one if you're looking on YouTube right here. It goes all the way across. And so I can fit 4 10 by 20 trays in there, in which one shelf holds 4 10 by 20 trays. And that helped a lot.
Is it narrow? It's 4 lined up, like side by side?
Yeah, side by side. Okay. So you can put them. It's funny you say that. I was actually looking at it today, and I was like, I wonder if I put them the other way, how that would work and with my workflow. I don't think it would work out great. When we wrap
up, I want you to pull off one of those for me, because there's some dead.
Oh, I can't pull it off. What you talking about?
We'll go over
That's
there.
Filled.
Come on, show me
I'll take
do
a picture
something.
For you.
Come on, you're supposed to be my buddy here. I have some dead space in with some of the shelves, and I really want to try to take advantage of that, because I actually have 2 shelves that I use throughout the growing season. A part of that is because the plants that I grow, seeds that I start, spend more time indoors. Again, that's We'll come back to that. Yeah. But also a part of it is because of the quantity which
I sent you a photo.
Yeah, I see it here. The quantity that I'm growing, which is actually a whole nother episode, right? So there are a couple of things that I'm still fine tuning, and I suspect I'll need less space, generally speaking, once I really kind of hone in on all those things I was just hinting at.
Yeah. And I mean, those trays helped me because I can eliminate the 10 by 20 tray that it went in, but I use those to transport them. So everything is more sturdy.
Yeah, this picture is useless to me. Your plants look great, though. I can't tell if it's so right where that microphone is. That's one tray, the length size, the length.
The whole thing is one giant tray.
And so you're saying there's another one behind that? Or that covers the entire...
No. That tray is 20 inches wide and 4 feet long.
Oh.
So, yeah, it goes all the way down.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not ready to invest in anything more, but I get it.
Yeah, it definitely changed everything. The one thing I don't like about all this is, like, I don't like using plastic, but I've used those pots you just plant in the ground. What are they called?
Peat pots? Peat
pots. Yeah, that's
Terrible.
What we should have answered in the beginning.
Terrible, yeah.
That's exactly, those are garbage, but they are the biggest rage. Everybody loves them, and I hate them. They never work. They never break down.
It's all good. I mean, if you love them, go ahead and plant them, and then at the end of the season, dig it back up, because it's not going to break down. It'll still be there.
Yeah. I mean, that was a tough part. Using all of these different trays and different ways, it helped me. So I use the 48 cell trays, I got my tomatoes in, I got my peppers, eggplants. I do my broccoli in them and stuff like that.
I don't know.
I think I have
experienced
some
jealousy,
that are like,
but damn.
What?
I'm just looking at. I mean, your peppers look great, man. Are those all peppers? So you.
The big ones are peppers, and then tomatoes are next to them.
Okay, yeah, man. Let's move on.
Tomatoes are younger. Yeah. So, you made me lose my train of thought.
No, that's okay.
What was I saying?
I don't remember. I was,
Bring me back.
staring at the peppers and guys and gals. It's more or less like he's many weeks clearly ahead of me when it comes to these particular plants, because his are going to go out into the garden much earlier than mine, and I'm just feeling a little bit of nostalgia as I look at it.
Those pepper plants are 2 weeks old.
Yeah, that's a lot of growth for 2 weeks for peppers, because sometimes I had
them heat mats, baby.
Yeah. Are those all sweet peppers and not hot?
They're sweet and hot.
Because we know that generally hot can take a little bit longer to even pop up,
Yeah, they were a day later because I was watching them. They were all a day later. I got germination in 3 days because of those heat mats. So it made a big difference. But doing all of that will help with this. Now, the other part of this is when we get into, and we hinted to it, so it's the up-potting portion of this. Up-potting is very difficult to talk about because I know a lot of people love to up-pot, and I used to be one that would up-pot everything.
Okay.
But now I don't.
Tell us the logic behind up-potting, young Ben.
So my logic or
the people's logic,
overall so the people's logic is you want to have bigger roots, you want to have more space and all that stuff before you plant out. But the true logic that I've come across is, one, think about it this: a lot of people like up pot their brassicas, their kale, cabbage, all that stuff. When you look at go to the store, how are you buying them?
Typically in a 6-pack in the olden days, or maybe now even a 4-pack now.
Yeah, but they're not up potted, is what I'm saying. So you're not buying those up potted, but it's extremely common to buy a tomato in a bigger pot and a pepper. So I started looking at that and thinking like, okay, I'm having all of these issues. How can I fix this? And so I stopped up potting my cabbage, my lettuce, all that stuff. No problems. I still up pot my tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. That's basically all I up pot. But what we have to remember is on this shelf behind me right now, I have roughly 200 peppers and eggplants and tomatoes combined. And so those 200 plants that take up one shelf, when they up pot, they're now going to take up 2 shelves. So we have to remember that. And that's where I failed that first year. It was insanity.
And that's if you have the kind of cell structures, like the material to actually get double the size. So if you look at, how many plants did we count into what's that, like 72 or something, if you use your traditional 6-packs in a 10 by 20. So to get like
36 in a 10 by 20.
Not you, the regular 6-packs, not the deep ones.
Yeah, if you have 6 cells, and 6 cells are 10 by 20, 6 of those would be 36.
Yeah, but it's more than
per 10 by 20 spot.
Okay,
so then when you up pot it, it would be 72.
Yeah, it's the opposite though. You get you have yeah. All right, let's I'm gonna say 72.
Let's move on.
Yeah, this math in public is embarrassing. So 72. Yes, pretend that we have 72 starts on our tray or inside our tray, and then we have to up pot them. It's great if we can get 36, but do we really? Right? Like, are we up potting them into something that's going to be able to fit, like 36 of what's going to fit into a 10 by 20?
Right. So what I ended up doing is I found, so I'm telling you, if you go to Greenhouse Megastore and all this stuff, everything is made for a greenhouse, and that's why everything's pretty standard. And so I found trays that hold 3-inch pots. So it holds half of that tray in 3-inch pots. So I can take 3-inch square pots and then up potting those. And then I can put those cells in. So they're all nice and spaced. They get, there's a little bit of space in between them. So they have more space for the plants and stuff like that when they start to spread out. And then that helped keep everything organized. Because before, I think I went on Amazon. You see them all the time, those little cheap brown plastic pots that people get, like 3-inch round pots and stuff.
Those are the ones I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, so you use those, and I mean, you can cram a lot in there, but it gets a little hairy.
Yeah.
So this was able to lock everything in, and I could transport them a lot easier, and it made it a lot.
And you also have an opportunity to, if you're up potting, now you have things in an individual pot versus there's a whole 6-pack of tomatoes versus a whole 6-pack of peppers, right? And there's some things that I'm growing that I'm not growing 6 of, when you look at the trays and you start thinking about, all right, what can I fit in here? You have to ask yourself at that time, especially when you up pot, I start making decisions about, do I really need however many I have of the thing? If I have 12 Roma tomato plants, I know I'm not going to plant 12. Do I even need to take 12 to the next stage? So, you start to, I can see the look on your face. You pot up everything if you're going to pot it up, don't you?
I do. Yeah. Cause you never know.
Yeah. You never know, man. But if I have 12, it's okay that I have 8,
But if you don't need 12, why did you start 12?
Because I'm a foolish woman.
Well, that was a rhetorical question.
Well, it was easier to, in those 2 sets of 6-packs, start 12, knowing that there is potential for some failure, right? And then it's all 12 look good. I may have even double seeded some of those cells, right? So all 12 of those look good. And now I have to make room for 12 individual Roma tomato plants alone, as an example. So that's when you start to kind of realize in that moment that you may have overstarted things, that you may have overplanted. And remember, last year I was very adamant about, and I still am, it's okay for me to have too many of a plant and I don't actually plant it out into the garden. I have to become okay with that, because the alternative for me was I ended up not having the start at all. And that's the thing I can't accept going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have that then. In my mind, it's better to let it just sit outside, because what ends up happening, which kind of goes into the next section, is as it gets warm, those plants can sit outside, no issues, and continue to grow, continue to get, development and stuff like that.
But dude, it's March 15th. My average last frost date isn't even till a month away, right?
I know. So let's segue into the next. So this is going to kind of get a little bit jumbled here, but
says you.
So then you start thinking like, okay, well, hardening off. So how are we hardening things off? And this is another avenue in which I started. But I look at my seed starting shelf like a conveyor belt. So if I let it get clogged up, then I have a real issue on hand. If there's a kink in the conveyor belt, then it gets backed up and then it becomes a nightmare. So like earlier, 2 weeks ago, I had the top shelf was filled with cabbage and broccoli, basically, and lettuce. And then I put everything down on the second shelf, which was all my tomatoes and peppers. But then I took out all of the stuff on the top shelf. So now that's completely bare, because I was able to harden it off. So this really gets into like your planting times and stuff. And I've said this a lot, and I will live and die by it. You should not be planting your cabbage the same time you're planting your tomatoes. End of story. And you can put all these other plants, cool season crops. If you don't know what is cool season, you should look it up, because we don't have time to go through it. But it will definitely change the way your seed starting shelf and the amount of seeds you can start too. Because once I started doing that and I started pushing everything earlier and earlier, like I wanted to, and knew that in my heart of hearts, I knew it could go out earlier. So once I started doing that, everything changed completely.
Yeah. So a couple of notes.
So that.
Oh, okay. A couple of notes. We don't have time to go into that detail, because you let me go on about Greek yogurt for like 5 minutes. But thank you. To blame young Ben for the mishap with the last episode, because you all missed the effect of me hearing the conveyor belt for the first time. And I was kind of like, this time, because when I heard it the first time, like, it's genius. And I rarely say that about anyone, right? Especially about young men.
It's hard to get a compliment out of Batavia, just so you know.
That extreme of a compliment, right? You get plenty of good jobs, buddy, But it's genius because, immediately you get it. Immediately you may not actively say that your plants sit on the shelves a long time, but that's absolutely my experience. And I know that my plants are on the shelves either because I started them too early and they're on the shelves longer than they should, or I'm playing around with not getting them outside. So they, again, spend more time than they should on the shelves. And so that was a tongue twister. And so as you think about like these things are going to be moving out. Now, I'm going to put a little salt in this because I still secretly have this jealousy of young Ben around. He's already, as we're recording, he's already planted things that he started from seed indoors outside already as we're talking. And
right,
it's going to be 10 degrees next week for me. And my soil is frozen. That's the cards that I've been dealt because I haven't decided to relocate from the windy city of Chicago. So here we are. But it doesn't mean because we are on different schedules, generally speaking, that concept can't be applied. This is not the forever home. My shelving units are not the forever home for these plants. And so I need to be very conscious of that. That's the reason why it was such a moment when you said it last time.
It's hard because in the wintertime you think it is, but once you start looking at it and like, look, I got to get this stuff out. I got to get it out because like on the top shelf right now, what I've got going on is I've got my sweet potatoes. They're started. And I've showed you, I've showed on YouTube on Sandy Bottom Homestead how I started. I just did a video about it. And basically they sit in a tray and then I cut my slips and then I put them in a jar of water. And the reason why that's important is because that jar of water is an incredible waste of space. I mean, that takes basically 10 by 20. It takes a whole tray's worth out of there. But I've created enough of getting these plants out on time and then getting other things going to where I have factored that in and I can keep that going in the right direction so I can get those. And truth be told, like my bottom shelf doesn't really get used until I up pot all of my tomatoes and peppers. And then that bottom shelf is automatically filled. So what does that leave me with? That leaves me with two areas up top, to, two trays that I can use. So I've only got space for two more trays. Now I can do something in between and get it out, but you just got to be really careful with how you do it and really plan. And this is where that whole thing that I go on about a lot about starting earlier and fertilizing more really comes into effect, because the overall outcome behind starting earlier, there's a lot to it, but part of that is managing your seed shelf and allowing you to start. I'm going to be brave and say twice as many seeds. Yeah. That's how much I can start by doing that.
So I believe one day I'll need 3 shelving units because of my dream of the flowers I'm going to start. But I think that I could easily say, dude, just get another shelving unit. Like, why are you putting so much energy into this? But I know the answer. Having the single shelving unit, you've done this successfully before. So you have your experience to show. You can push out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of starts from that space. Getting a second shelving unit could easily lead you into not being as disciplined as you have been and you need to be. So this idea of that first year when I had the one shelf, I was just like, gosh, I up potted and I was like, what am I going to, there was stuff everywhere on the refrigerator, on the freezer. What do I do with all this stuff? Right. And so I immediately went in, I had another shelving unit I was using to store other things. I put that stuff on the floor and, moved that into the area. And it made it very easy for it to be convenient for me to leave things on those shelves too long. Right. So it's not, I'm not going to back down from the 2 I have right now. But I'm still going to kind of go in with the spirit of the conveyor belt. Yeah.
So, first of all, that would be my answer.
Are you?
No, see, that's not my answer.
Oh, well, how I'd answer for you.
Yeah. So first of all, you can't tell me what I think.
No, that's okay.
Who do I sound like, ladies and
The
gentlemen?
number of conversations that I have with you where it's just me saying, this is what you should say. You don't even know.
Yeah. So the ultimate reason why I wouldn't do it, there's two reasons. One, I don't have the space, so that eliminates that. The other one is it costs significantly more for me to build another shelf than to get the proper trays. When I say proper, I mean proper for me than for that. So that's why I don't do another one. But no, it's crazy to think about. And I remember when I went to this shelving, so building this one, I think total cost to build what I have, which is 3 tiers, and it holds 12 10 by 20 trays at a time. I think it cost me about $350. Before that, I was using like a two-tiered, like 2 foot by, I don't know, 18-inch thing. And that's how I got in trouble. When you said it triggered it. It was all of a sudden I had all this room and I was like, go. And it was a problem. Now, if I had started a lot of flowers inside, I start most of them in the greenhouse. But if I started them inside, I would probably do another shelving unit because those can take a long time. Yeah. Wow. And it's really hard because, the benefit with the vegetables is like broccoli can go out when it's cold.
Yeah. Yep.
But your frost sensitive plants, they can't. You can't put a tomato out when it's cold. It's the same thing. So you have to be very careful. So that's why I don't build another shelf. And quite honestly, I don't want to manage 2 shelves either. So I'm really big on putting limits on myself. It doesn't bother me to be in a box and say like, how do I get out of this box? Instead of being like, well, let me just buy another box, you know? Like I like that. I like having those restrictions because it forces me to kind of narrow it down and get a little bit.
We couldn't be more opposite, but you know that.
I know. Yeah. I know that. I know. So, what else? So the hardening off aspect, we've gone over that. Your starting time, so just pushing things earlier helps. Have you started pushing things a little bit earlier, Batavia?
No. So I'm late. I've been late on my, no.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this.
Yeah.
I planned to be earlier in that. I was later on my onions by a couple of weeks even than I wanted to be. My celery is right on time. My brassicas are on time for the new approach of getting them out younger when it's, cold, right? So I'd like to get them out where they're only going to have about, just about 5 weeks of growth before I start hardening them off. I have planned previously, and there's a whole story to tell about me and brassicas, but I planned previously for them to be like 8-10 weeks old when they went out. So that kind of, again, feeds into how long things are staying on my shelves and how much I have to kind of nurture it and the complication of other things that, really need to get started in the room that I have or I don't have. So it's a complicated answer to your question. The proof is in the pudding, though. I haven't executed on getting things in and out earlier. That's my truth.
Yeah, you got to be true sometimes. I'm trying to start some things earlier, but I think I've got it down almost to a science for me. I did notice a couple things this year. Like I just planted out my broccoli and I started broccoli to plant in the greenhouse in December. I started it outside and those seedlings are beautiful. And so I had a couple leftovers. After I planted, and so a couple weeks later, I put them out here in the garden. And I was like, this is how I'm going to start these from now on. I'm just going to start them in the greenhouse in wintertime in December. So that's moving my start date ahead another month. But they grow slower out there because of the amount of sun and stuff. But it was, the healthiest seedlings I've ever grown. So I'm going to continue to do that. And otherwise, everything seems to be on track right now. We'll see. As of right now, the only seeds I have left to start, well, that's not true, but for the most part that are going in here that are going to take up a lot of space, they're going to be marigolds and then squashes. So The things with squashes are, they don't need to be inside as long, but I don't start them in those little trays. I actually start those in those 3-inch round pots because I start them right before the last frost date, and then I'll move them outside. So they actually won't be in here that long. And I may actually, this year, I'm toying with the idea of actually starting them in the greenhouse before my last frost date, seeing how that goes. And for the simple fact is I've had so many volunteer plants grow out of my compost where the seed sits out there all winter and then starts to grow. And it's like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, give it a shot. So I'm going to try that, but I'm on track to keep this thing relative. Am I ever not going to have overflow? I'll probably have a little bit, but nothing crazy, you know. It just gets, by the time I get my squash going, I will already be starting to harden off my tomatoes, so then I'll have more room.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So, on that note, since Batavia's leaving it there, we are going to answer the question of the day. And this one comes from, I need to make like a sound effect for that.
I mean, you have a whole sound effect over here, but, you know, you clearly misuse it.
Yeah, I do. It's because I don't control it secretly. No. So let's see. This one comes from Backyard Gardens Community Garden, and it is from Emily.
Hey, Emily.
So we actually got a request recently, Batavia, that the bell can be seen on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
People want to see the bell in the videos.
Well,
so the people ask, so we got to figure it
so
out.
I heard
we'll figure
that
something
as
out.
like a guest appearance by the bell, not like the bell will be on all videos. And like, well, I'll take it under advisement.
The bell needs more screen time than Leonard. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I can definitely see that and respect that.
Yeah. Okay. So Emily writes, best seed starting mix is just straight peat or, here we go, cocoa coir sufficient?
No.
That's a tough one.
It's not.
I don't agree. I agree with you.
Not sufficient. It's such a great question, Emily, because there's so many options, and I am one that kind of goes down the, what's it, paralysis, paralysis place, and I have done a lot of like variations of seed starting mix. So generally speaking, the answer is like a direct no, because there's no nutrients at all in the peat moss or the cocoa coir. Generally, people will use one or the other. The cocoa coir being more sustainable than the peat moss, but in a lot of places, the peat moss being more accessible. But it doesn't have anything to feed the plants. It doesn't have any type of amendments in it. And that's a part of the reason why it's, such a great product for other purposes. So right now, and it's interesting, I didn't get a chance to bring it up, I'm using a pre-mixed mix, which I am not crazy about, but it's just one of those things that I know will lead to a more productive seed starting experience. And I figured it out in this. What?
What are you not crazy about?
I love the idea of me making my own mix up.
Okay.
Right?
So it's not that you're not crazy about the mix. You're just not crazy that you're using a pre-made mix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to confuse the pre-made mix that I'm using, which is the same that Young Ben is using, with what I used very originally, which was like the Jiffy mix. I think that's just a ripoff when it comes to the price of it, the quantity I'm talking about truly having a full shelving unit of starts for that kind of seed starting. It's just not cost effective. So going on one extreme, I've used that type of mix. Burpee also has like a similar, I've used that type of mix. Not crazy about it. Now I'm using the Pro Mix, and that's the way that I actually got to the Greenhouse Megastore. Again, not sponsored, but I saw Young Ben using it, and I'm like, he does so many starts. I have to figure out a better way with what I'm using as seed starting mix. And so I said, I was scanning in because I kept on asking him, and he kept on telling me the name of it. I'm like, no, dude, I need like a link. because I think you bought yours locally. I'm getting off track here, but we're coming back around.
Yeah.
Really. So anyway, I was looking for it online and they had the best price, Greenhouse Megastore. But then I started shopping around, like inside of the website. I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe I should get this. Maybe I should get that. Maybe I should get, and I ended up.
How much was a bag of it through them?
Yeah, I ended up getting fertilizer from there, my granular fertilizer from there, as well as the Pro Mix, as well as some new seed starting trays, which I had been on the hunt for. And then just really quickly in between, I have made my own mix. Using a kind of 1/3 peat moss, 1/3 perlite, 1/3 compost, and beautiful seedlings. If I was doing it outside, I would absolutely use that. But for inside seed starting, I really wanted something that was a bit more sterile. And that's what I think I have now. This is the first season for me using the Pro Mix, though.
Yeah, this is my 3rd season using Pro Mix. So how much was the Pro Mix when you bought it from the store? Do you remember?
That big bag was, which is, what's the size? 3.5.
It's like 20 pounds or
yeah,
something?
it was $41.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I get it for $20 for the same size bag.
But you get it locally, right?
But I get it locally. Yeah, I get it. I don't know how they do it. And I'm not even going to tell nobody. I'm just going to be quiet and go buy it. You know what I'm saying? Because when they change it, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
I did the same thing for a long time. I even came on here years ago and said, this is how I make my mix. And it was peat moss. I took potting soil and I screened it. And then I threw some perlite in. And so one thing I agree with almost everything Batavia said, but the one thing I don't agree with is that there's no nutrients in the Jiffy or in the peat and stuff, because what we found was the Pro Mix has some nutrients, but not much at all. But what I don't like about is there's no drainage. Mm-hmm. So this is a really big issue. Drainage is really, really important, and you can absolutely add it, but just using it straight is the issue, which is what the question is, geared around. So doing that, I switched to Pro Mix. And it's the Pro Mix RX. It has mycorrhizae in it, which if you don't know what mycorrhizae, it's really important part of the plants. It's basically a communication network fungus in the plant that transports nutrients. It's not like you open the bag and it's like, oh, there it is. You can't really see it, but they say it's in there. So, okay. But it's got the right drainage. It's nice and fluffy. Mm-hmm. But really what it is it's very time saving. Mm-hmm. I know I can open that bag, I can use it, and I can be done. So that's why I use it. And then the fact that it has, as Batavia did through her research, she found out, shout out to Batavia.
Go ahead. I'm trying to, give the people what they want.
Well, hold on. Let's get the camera on you. There it is. They saw it. But what she found out was it has enough food in there, and it says for 10 days from germination. Mm-hmm. And so it has enough to keep it going, and then it's on you. And I like having that blank slate.
Yeah.
I like having that, to have that decision to say, hey, I need to add this. I need to not add this or that. So I like that. We're not sponsored by Pro Mix. Again, call us. We'd love to. Just so you guys know too, we don't talk about products on here that we don't truly believe in. And that's why we have stuck with Planter App for so long. And I truly believe in Pro Mix. It's a great product. It does cost, but if you want something simple, I get that there's the whole act of making seed starting mix that people enjoy. It's that connection to your seed and all that stuff. And I understand that. What I don't like is when you get Jiffy Mix and the burpee stuff. And I just looked it up to see what was in Jiffy Mix. It says in here, Jiffy Mix contains peat moss, vermiculite, coir, and lime. So one thing I'll say about vermiculite and perlite, I get this all the time because I start my seeds, I top them all with perlite. And they're like, why don't you use vermiculite? Well, vermiculite holds a lot of water. And perlite does not hold as much water, but it has antibacterial properties to it.
Perlite is supposed to help with drainage, where vermiculite is almost the opposite in the idea that it helps you retain moisture and water, right?
Right. But what happens with perlite is if it gets into the soil, when the roots hit the perlite, so let me zoom in for you. When the roots hit the perlite, they hit it and then they branch off. They break, essentially. And what that break does is it creates more feeder roots onto your plants so that they can uptake more nutrients and even more water. So that's the difference between, but it's a lot lighter than vermiculite. It doesn't add that weight and it doesn't hold it. So it's up to you what you want to use. I think vermiculite is like, in the gardening world, just somehow stole the crown. I don't know what it is, but perlite, I mean, dude, I got a bag that's like 3 feet tall of perlite. You know how much I bought that bag for?
How much?
It's 3 feet tall and it's about this big around, right here, that big around. I bought that bag for $15.
Oh, I have a big bag like that. I didn't buy it for $15. I don't remember how much I paid for it.
It was so cheap.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then the vermiculite next to it was like $50.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh yeah.
Now,
absolutely not.
Just to be clear, Emily wasn't asking about this, I don't think, but I use peat moss a lot in my garden for my container gardening, right? So when I make up my container mix, which I still do, I absolutely use peat moss. If I was starting my seeds outdoors, if the majority of them were started outdoors, I'd kind of go back to the mixture that I mentioned before, some compost, some peat moss, some perlite, and call it. The reason why I stopped doing that was because I was inviting too many, quite literally, creatures. Well, not creatures, but, insects and such. I mean, I was even pouring boiling water on the mixture, but you still have all of these outdoor elements that you've brought inside. Like, I mean, compost alone. Again, the plants were rich, man. They were fed well. However, it wasn't worth that. I was kind of, if you start to fold in what we've been talking about, if I have these plants on the seed shelves for a shorter period of time before they get out into the environment where I can really, really take care of them and give them all the things that they want, then it's okay that I don't have the most lush, seed starts that I did when I had compost and a bunch of gnats and, aphids.
Yeah, it's tough. I haven't had fungus gnats with this, not once.
That's quite literally the reason why I went to look for something different, because I had changed to something that was less, kind of less composty, and I felt okay about that. But the fungus gnats, I just had to do something different from last year. So,
well, let's, I mean, it's hard. You want to do a whole episode on this, but nobody wants to listen to a whole episode on it. So let's break down like just your mixture: it's peat moss, perlite, and compost.
Yeah.
So let's break down what the 3 elements do. Okay. So what's the purpose of perlite?
So the perlite, in my view, is all about creating kind of that airflow within that soil, right? It creates drainage. It kind of breaks up that soil composite, because you have those little balls of, fine lava rock that, it's broken down. That's the purpose for perlite for me. It's almost a filler, but in the most positive way.
So then you have, compost, feeding, right? Yeah. And then you have peat moss, which is for water retention. So those are your 3 elements. So when you look at like the Pro Mix, and look, we're not telling Emily to go buy Pro Mix. That's not what we're doing, but that's what we use. The Pro Mix doesn't have the compost in it. It's got perlite in it, and then it's got soil in it. I don't know what the exact ingredients are. Shame on me. But that's the benefit of not making it myself. You know what I mean? Because I mean, the problem is like I would have to make it, and then I'd have to sit down outside. I'd have to wait for the weather to be right, sit down outside, because I screen topsoil or potting soil and put it in there. I had to screen it, and then I had to screen the peat moss and all that stuff, and it just got very time consuming. Yeah. And if you're going to use peat moss, you really do want to screen it to get the fine dust out of it, because that's where a lot of your water retention and plugging properties, where your seed cell will get plugged up, will do. But the other problem I had with it was you had to basically soak the peat moss And even the sphagnum, or not the sphagnum moss, I'm thinking of bonsai now. The cocoa coir, you had to soak it to get it to accept water. And I don't have to do that anymore. And that just saves me, it literally saves me hours each time I start seeds.
So I don't soak my peat moss when I use it outside, but I do a real effort of breaking it up as I use it. Like I'll use it with spent potting soil. I'll use it with, even if I buy some real, air quote, rich potting soil, I'll add basically peat moss to stretch it. But it's a workout. Like it's a real effort, to your point of trying to get that to where it's pliable enough to use. And I'm in the middle of the Midwest. And so the points of me making it, I've been out there in the winter with snow boots on, making this mixture up. And then basically I need to bring it inside to store as I'm continually starting my seeds, because all seeds don't start on the same day, right? It was a whole deal. So now I actually have a bag under my seed starting table and I can dig inside of there. I do want to put it in a container. I just haven't gotten to that yet. It is, I believe it's going to be a healthier environment for my seedlings, which is the number one. It's going to be less of a pain point when it comes to the not so healthy environment. What that created, again, the fungus gnats, where it's torture. And then it is super convenient for me compared to what I was doing. Now, I would have sacrificed the convenience, I think, had I not had the other problems. But here we are.
Yeah, there's the cocoa stuff. I'm just going to say the first name, whatever. There was a sustainability issue I heard about recently. I don't know what it is, but there was a sustainability issue.
I've heard it. I've not read up enough on it to know.
Yeah.
How accurate it is, or if it's a bit slanted.
Yeah, I'm kind of out of that game completely. But for years in my little trees, I've used pumice in there. But now instead I use perlite, because that's what I have. It does the same thing. So, Emily, it's up to you. But if you're going to use it straight, you definitely need to add in some, compost. Potting soil would take the compost, the place of compost, and then some kind of drainage. You really want that drainage in there, or else it's just your plants will just stay waterlogged. So it's up to you what you use, but we hope you get it right and you're happy with what you're doing. That's important. So either way, no, I take that back. I was going to say either way you need to fertilize, but if you're using potting soil or compost, you're probably pretty good. A little light dose of fertilizer will help, but it's not like a necessity. So there is that. But, it's up to you what you do. So anything else about that?
No, man. I think we covered all of it.
We're good.
I think we covered more than what she asked, I hope. And I hope that information was helpful.
That's the goal. Yeah, if we don't get any follow-up questions, that means we did it right.
Or she's just I don't want to get them started again. So it could be that.
Yeah. If you'd like to be like Emily and send us a question, you can do so on the Backyard Gardens community garden page, or you can send us an email at bygquestion@gmail.com. I have to admit, since we came back from our break, I have forgotten to check it, so we will hit that up soon. And I actually forgot it even existed, so there's that as well. So we're going to do that.
You already started 600 seedlings, man. I mean, give you some grace.
So, but you could do so either way. And until then, remember, you can support us by doing a couple things. You can become a subscriber. You can become a patron. You can buy some seeds. Use the link below. Or you can get all this seed starting stuff we're talking about is all on our Amazon page. So you can check that out, and everything you buy will help us, and we greatly appreciate it. Because we want to continue to do two things on the show. We want to continue to learn to grow and grow for change.
That's so loud. See ya.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're doing and you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at patreon.com/backyardgardens, or you can be an Apple subscriber, and in both of those, you'll get an extra episode every month. You can also make a one-time PayPal donation with the link below, and you can get all kinds of gardening gear like t-shirts and mugs and cups from the link below at Teespring, and we have an Amazon store which has all the products that we use and recommend in our gardens, and it helps support our show. And we also add to this list periodically, so be sure to check it out periodically to see if there's anything that you need for your garden. Everything that you do, including a like and a subscribe and even a review, will help us learn to grow and grow for change.
See ya.